his eye, his nose, the 2 ears. Someone suggested there was a wolf in the rock.
Oh my. Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
when it's pointed out to you, it's like, it's pretty clear. So we're going to have to go back there and see if there's an actual wolf there.
It's like creepy red writing.
Yeah. And we didn't even know. This was only a couple of weeks ago. Someone said, "Stop that slide." This is one of the cabins at the top of Mount Doubleday. She was not able to pick the lock. Doublehead, I'm sorry. She was not able to pick the lock as hard as she tried. That's what the trail looked like after Hurricane Sandy.
Wow.
That was about a 5-mile hike, and it took us about 12 hours to do, because we had to pick our way through the trail.
Like bushwhacking.
Yeah. We love fungus, as you can see. And if there's a slug there, all the better. We hiked in any weather. Oftentimes, as long as there wasn't lightning, rain didn't stop us. That's at the top of North Kearsarge. It was very near the end. It's a brand new tower. There's another picture of it, where you can actually sleep up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'll show you the slides coming up. I'll show it to you. This is Shelburne. I had a lot of shots coming up to Shelburne, Mariah. This is a day hike that we took right after a storm. And there's the tower right there. It's brand new. And it's like a greenhouse in there. When we walk in there, the temperature is in the 20s outside, and inside is in the 60s. We can strip right down to our base level. There's one of the bent poles. We used it till we broke it, and then we kept using it until we couldn't anymore. This was at the top of West Royce. We had a picnic at the remains of an old summit tower. That was a view of that view. That's from the summit of Shelburne, Mariah. That's what we hiked through all day.
I was going to say, Dan, you could sell some of your photographs.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gorgeous.
There's a lot of outhouses up there. This is one of them, which we love exploring. There's a brand new one that they put up on the top of Black Mountain. Okay, so this is coming down from North Kearsarge. The next slide is the next day on the way up to the Horn.
Wow.
It's a 24-hour difference.
Well, that's a different hike.
Yeah. And there we are at the summit of the Horn. That was our toughest hike. It doesn't look like it there, but it was a storm that was raging, and we had to scramble up this big rock. This is she's turning on my backpack actually. That's for our overnight. I should let her bring it up. How far do you think you could carry that? Oh, yeah. And that's the pack she ended up carrying. She actually carried all the poles and a lot of the food all the way up on her own. By this time she was quite strong. That's what we have to do to get up on the Horn. We have to shimmy through this little crack in the rocks, come around to the back. Wow. It's going under the I-93 actually on the way to Mount Pemigewasset. You can see the boots she's wearing actually are my wife's. Early in the that's a nice ball shot. Early in her journey, she wore my wife's boots until she grew out of them. In the 1 year that she was hiking, her foot size went from a 5 to a 6.5. It was a tough day, and we were on our way down from the Horn, but we were exhausted and hungry, so we brought a thermos of soup, and we just had to stop and eat.
Oh, so does food really, it tastes better after you eat?
Oh God, yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The greatest thing ever.
There's a reason for that, which I'll explain to you. There's an actual biochemical reason for that, which I'll explain in a second. This is, we're looking up towards the stairs. They're also called the giant stairs.
Oh, that's great.
I always thought this was such a strange shot. It almost looks like she's photoshopped into
Yes.
a picture.
Yeah.
Yes. That was cool the way that came out. Yeah, it looks right, and she's all in color.
That's why it looks
That was Mount Monadnock in early March. I haven't seen it like that. There's that look again.
Looks like she's 18 there.
We love this hike. It was snowy and cold, but there was no wind, and it was we were alone on the trails, and everything came together that day. Tiptoeing through the wildflowers. That's one of my favorite shots.
Yeah.
Did you pose for that shot? I don't even remember that shot you did. Yeah, that's what it looks like up there right now. Go up this weekend. That's what you're gonna see. That's my resolution. No, we were setting up camp at the top of the stairs. She's putting the poles together. She carried them up. She carried them up there. She was responsible for them, so she put the poles together. And there she is relaxing after her camp duties. She should be relaxing a little bit more for the last, but that's from the top of our halfway point. That's Sandwich Mountain in Waterville Valley. You can see with the Waterville down there too. And there's the summit of Shelburne Moraine. Like I said, I have a lot of shots of this particular hike just because the light was perfect and it was one of our favorites. Good morning. Enjoying the views in the morning.
Shelburne Moraine?
This is the top of the stairs. Yeah. I thought she looked really tough for that picture. She's exhausted, but I thought she looked tough. There we finished at the top of Mount Star King. That's the old fireplace of an old ranger cabin. And all that's left is the fireplace. That was number 52 for us. Well, another picture that coming up. Those are the sisters over there, middle, north, and south. That's from the top of Mount Shikort. Alex and Sage, actually Sage and Alex, two of her hiking friends. And I'll talk a little bit more about finding kids her age to hike with, which was quite a task for us. I think that might be the only shot in the 1 year of the three of us together at the top of the mountain. There's the girls again enjoying lunch, having no use for the adults at the top of Mount Shaw. We became good friends with Alex and Sage and Trish. I know she's a goof, isn't she? That's one of my many girl power shots. When I go and talk in front of girls in places like that, I always like to whip out these pictures. Yeah. That's Sparks. That's an Appalachian Trail thru hikers cabin at the summit of Sparks Mountain. And there's the tower near that cabin at the summit of Sparks Mountain. That was the first tower we were able to go into. Locked the other time. That is a wolf spider. That is the largest wolf spider I have seen. It was about the size of a $50. We love towers. We love structures and finding little places to visit on our journey. Wow. Nice fall day. That's what this is all about. Birch forest. That is actually a bog at the top of Shelburne Moraine. It's frozen over. More artsy shots. I had to work hard to make it look like I wasn't taking a picture there. She always found the most precarious, heart-stopping purchase. But she knew that I would take a picture first and tell her to get down second. That's the way up. She loved climbing up rock. We had a lot of rock to climb. there we are. This is the day before Hurricane Sandy. So what are there two hikers to do on the way to a hike? Take a picture. We stopped alongside the road and I made her pose. There we are from the top of the horn. That was our view from the top of the horn. An old stone fire tower and Middle Sister. There's still some UNH weather equipment that you can see over her right shoulder there. That's and there's the ultimate girl power tower. Don't let anybody tell you that kids can't accomplish. That's the entering her final hike, the traditional hikers arch that they create with their poles as she is approaching number 52. There's the three girls.
Is that coming down from Starkey?
Shaw. There she is in her usual position, way ahead of me, and me working hard to keep up. And there's the final shot.
Wow.
And you can see on the left, she's actually under my armpit. And on the right, she's at my shoulder.
Yeah.
So there you have it. A couple of things, let's see. Well, first, any questions from the slideshow?
Mount Roberts, you
Yes.
have to pay the admission and go.
No, you don't actually. If you want to go visit Castle in the Clouds, you can pay. But that pond where the statue was and the feeding, you can do all that for free. It's a park area outside, near the trailhead.
So how do you get in there? Not through the main gate.
Yeah, you can go through the main gate. The main gate shouldn't cost you any money. And then as you go around, you can make a right towards Castle, and if you make a left, that's where all the trailheads are.
We actually went past the main gate
Yeah.
to return, like, if you're going, when you take a left to the main gate, we went and took like another left and there was like a little trailhead parking there.
Yeah.
And we took it up there.
Yeah, there's several trails by the pond, right? Did you see the
But
pond?
you walk a little ways and
Yeah.
then there's the pond and then
Yeah,
you kind
and
of go up.
there's
to
a
the right.
farm to the left, and
Yeah.
and you can spend the whole day there without ever going into. Although Castle in the Clouds is cool. But,
They took my money right away. And at the time, I didn't know about the hike. So then
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, how do you get in free to hike?
Yeah, you can. Plus, they shouldn't charge you for just the hike. So two big things happened. Her feet was one of them. She early in our journey, we could not fix her feet. She kept getting blisters and hot spots, and at one point she got a plantar's wart, which can you imagine anything worse for a 10-year-old girl than a plantar's wart? And we had this little ceremony at the beginning of every hike where I would tape her feet up, and I would put little donut hole pads on it and everything. And eventually she grew out of my wife's boots, which didn't really fit her that well anyway. And part of where we were going, as you can see, required her to have safe gear. So we searched long and hard for boots and for jackets, and a lot of that stuff we can buy used at gear shops and so forth. But the boots were something else entirely. So you want to tell the story of how we got your faded glories? Speak loud, please. We're recording.
We were in Bethlehem, New Hampshire.
Which is important to the story. We were in Bethlehem.
And we found a couple of boxes on the side of the road that said free. So we stopped. And it was full of gear, kids' gear, that fit me all perfectly.
Bethlehem.
And it had these
Divine Providence, right? Yeah, so yeah, it was gear. It was 3 boxes of kids' gear, all of which was free. Boots and jackets and socks and gloves and And we took it all, and it all fit her. And in those boxes was a pair of trail runners called Faded Glory trail runners that were designed. They were designed for her feet. And as soon as she started wearing them, all the blisters and all the red spots, everything went away. And she wore those suckers through the whole thing, even up on the horn and in the mud. And they lasted her the whole way, and they were warm, and they were comfortable. And near the end of our hike, I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to, send a letter to Faded Glory? Because what an interesting story, So I looked up Faded Glory. Turns out Faded Glory is actually a Walmart brand. So the moral of the story is that sometimes brand doesn't matter. Sometimes it's about fit and divine providence.
All you have to do is go to Bethlehem.
Or know someone who works in Timberland.
Or know someone who works in
So
Timberland.
we'll talk later.
So yeah, so let's talk about, how about, one of the big questions is, we'll head you off at the pass, how we got our trail names. Why don't you tell them the story about how we got our trail names?
I got my trail name because most hikers have trail names, and you can't give yourself your own trail name. Somebody else has to give it to you. So mine was Tough Cookie because me and my brother were arguing on the trail, and he was hiking with us once. He's not a hiker.
She's going to be a good storyteller.
Yeah, himself. But we were arguing about something, and he said, "Oh, you think you're such a tough cookie." So, and the name stuck. So.
Stuck her. That's a good story. No, you know the story. You tell it well.
Dan and Rena were hiking in Wind Cave National Park, and they were in an area where there was a lot of tall grass and wild buffalo. So they heard a herd of buffalo coming. And as Dan says, like any good hiker would do, he ran off out of the way and hid behind a tree. But it was actually only 2 baby buffalo.
So my wife ironically said, "Oh, what a tough buffalo you are."
He's also from Buffalo.
I'm also from Buffalo.
That's what I thought everybody said.
So we both got our trail names ironically.
How big is a baby buffalo?
Oh, it's still big. You can still do some damage, but they were just playing. It was. I used to say, when I used to tell the story before this, I used to say, then I ran off the trail like a little girl. I can't say that anymore. Because she wouldn't have done that. She would have been like, "Get your camera out."
So, Janelle, can you tell me more about climbing the rocks at the top? Because I tried to climb Kearsarge a couple years ago and got to the bear face part and couldn't do it. So I'm inspired to try it again, but I want to hear from you about, tell me what it's like up
I
there.
love rock scrambling, but I do not like the fake plastic rock walls. So I also run with Nina, and we were doing the Stonyfield 5K, and when we were finished, they had a rock wall, and Ian and Meg also happened to be with us that day, and Ian and his father run too, so they were running as well, and Nina and Aaron and Meg just kind of hung out and waited for us to finish. So there was a rock wall, and the 4 of us decided to try and climb the rock wall made out of plastic. So we did, and Meg just happened to be right behind me. And I tried to grab onto one of the rocks, and I was really tired, and I didn't feel that great after this race. So I tried to grab onto one of the rocks, because the guy told me to move over. And I slipped, and I fell directly on top of Meg. So it did not end there.
And so ended her rock wall climbing career.
But my brother's pretty good at rock wall climbing, So it's easier for him to see straight in front of him because it's right there. But he's not really that great at hiking because he'll trip and fall a lot because he can't see that well.
So why do you like scrambling on bare rock so much?
I don't know. It's fun.
There you go.
I feel the same way, so.
Sometimes it's not comfortable.
I think
Awesome. I'm gonna do it again.
You should do it again. Was it bad weather?
Yeah,
No, it was
I'd
just.
like to say it was just pure anxiety.
Yes, sometimes it is, it's just that, okay, what happened?
It's the fear of falling off the mountain.
Yeah, don't fall off the mountain.
That's perfect, what you said, just don't fall off the mountain.
Don't fall off the mountain.
That's what I need.
I don't like to rock scramble either, but if I'm with a friend, a hiking partner, and the partner goes first, and I can see that they made it okay, then I have the courage to go, to follow. And I found that when you're looking up at the rock, it's kind of scarier. When you actually get up there, and it's time to come back down, it isn't that bad. You know, it's good. And if you have to, you can sort of sit down and scoot down. It works.
Yeah, butt hiking.
Or
see,
scramble
coming
backwards.
down from the rocks is the hard part for me
Yeah.
because I don't really have, I'm short. So
Excuses.
So it's kind of hard. I have to butt slide sometimes.
So,
I do too. All right, you go first.
I grew up climbing in the mountains too, and I was very, very young when my father started taking me. So I don't, and I'm stuck with it. Like I have to climb, but I don't remember ever choosing to climb. It just became part of my life and what I do. But I want to know what it was on the first climb that made you know that you had to do it again.
Definitely, the rock scrambling and the view was amazing because I had never seen anything like that or climbed a mountain before.
So you just knew that you couldn't live it up doing it?
I think, if you allow me to use some pop psychology, I think on the very first, when we did Mount Kearsarge, I let her lead on Mount Kearsarge as opposed to that. So it was the first time where she was, and she's a child of the concrete. The alley is her backyard, and it always really has been. So she didn't. I read about this in the book. Is that she stopped and she was like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what which way, which direction. And to me, like the trail on Mount Kearsarge, it might as well be an escalator, But she didn't understand blazes or cairns or even trail versus shrubs. So our very first lesson, hers and mine, was to actually sit down in the trail and say, okay, that's a blaze. This is what the trail looks like. This is how they create a trail. These rocks aren't put here by God. This is, trail maintainers who come here and do this. So I guess what I'm getting at is that I think, given her background, that sense of empowerment, it was something that she was good at, number one. And when you, I think oftentimes when you discover something that you're really good at, then you become passionate about it too. So allowing her to sort of develop this hobby, who knows what it'll become. She wants to be a dentist, so what do I know? Dentist cook, right? A dentist chef? Yeah, a dentist chef.
That works.
So I think allowing a kid, it doesn't matter if it was hiking. Part of the reason why we wrote this book is because We did it, she did it through hiking. But I think if any kid her age or younger or older, if you find something that they're that passionate about, it's kind of incumbent on you just to be a facilitator and to just make sure that they do it safely and don't, break their neck doing it. But there's really there's no bar here, to what she can accomplish. And part of that is because she's never had a chance in her life to really excel at something that was hers, that she owned. And she owned this, and continues to. And I think that's just like her brother is a musician. And he owns the violin. He owns that hobby, that part of him. And will he become a professional musician? Will she become a forest ranger? I don't know. But it's the thing that makes them, this little person, have value in her head. And it's that value that propels her to continue to do it. It's my opinion.
I think my first hobby that I did have before hiking, though, was definitely swimming.
That's true. She's an incredible swimmer, like Olympic swimmer. Like she can kick my butt swimming. Like when we go swimming with my niece and nephew, I put her in charge. because she's a really, really good swimmer. And she loves swimming.
Some athletic scholarships in your future.
Well, I mean, for like outdoor camp stuff, that's non-sport related, swimming, yeah, that's good.
But again, it's, we don't have kids of our own yet. And I don't, I'm not an expert on anything that has to do with kids. But I know with her, and even with her brother, let her get dirty.
Oh, yeah.
Let her just run into the woods and get dirty. I see, I shouldn't bring my own sister into this, and I hope she doesn't see this. I love you, Andrew. But she's very, she doesn't like it when her kids get dirty. She doesn't like it when her kids get messy, and which works for them. But I think for her, allowing her to, let me give you an example. Early on in our quest, one of the things that I would do when I was letting her lead is take wrong turns and let her figure that out. And more often than not, she did. And she was usually irritated at me.
I usually figured it out because he would just stand there while I kept walking. And then I would hear him and then I'd turn around and see him just standing there and I'm like, what?
So let her I let her figure out a lot of stuff on her own. And even if that meant hiking a little bit more, even if that meant getting a little bit dirty, even if that meant, walking through like we had to take our boots off when we did that river crossing. Losing a boot in the mud, breaking a pole. A lot of it was letting go. And I suppose it's easier for me because she's not my daughter, maybe, and this was sort of a learning experience for both of us. But it's easier to let her go and to let her do trial and error. And what do we always say? It's not a real hike unless
Unless there's blood, mud, or dirt.
blood, mud, or dirt. It's not a real hike unless there's blood, mud, or dirt. And there's a lot of both, all three.
You saw a roost. Did you see any bears?
No.
Do you want to see some? No.
Smart.
Not on the trail, but on the side of the road.
What we saw?
When we did this hike, actually, I believe it was on the way back to the cabin right after this hike, we saw, or it might have been going home, but we saw a mama bear and baby bears.
Across the road.
Oh, nice. Putting cars good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's a good place to see a bear from.
Yeah.
Your car.
As you're leaving.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Janelle, are you still hiking?
Yes, but the problem is, our book tour is messing up our hiking schedule. So we have
Sure,
no
bike
time
things and
to
stuff.
hike.
Yeah. We have been, we're doing the 4,000 footers now. She's done 2. So we're going to start pursuing that. And I think wintertime is when we're going to rededicate ourselves to a lot of hiking, because we both actually bought a brand new pair of snowshoes last year, and we didn't use them at all. So I think we're going to go up and do a bunch of winter hiking this year. And girl power. So Alex and Sage. Is anyone familiar? There's a book out called Up, Mother and Daughter's Peak Bagging Adventure, and it's written by Trish Hare, and those are her daughters, Alex and Sage. And Alex and Sage became Alex became the second youngest girl to hike all 4,000 footers. She did it before she was 6. And then she was bumped down to 3rd place when her sister Sage did it 2 months faster than her. And Alex is now the youngest hiker to hike all 4,000 footers in winter. So they are a pretty tough family. They've done, I think, 45 of the 50 state high points. And they're, what are they now? 7 and 9, 8 and 10, something like that. So when we did this, we turned to them quite often, or I turned to Trish quite often for advice. And Trish actually wrote the foreword to the book, which I was really grateful for, because she wrote the foreword, and this is a true story. She wrote the foreword to the book in the week before her and her 2 daughters left to hike the Camino Trail in Spain, which is a 6-week, 500-mile trail that the 3 of them hiked. Just last summer. So that's how tough they are. But the great thing is, I should let you speak to this. The great thing is that when her and I were doing this, we love hiking with people, but it got to the point where it was very difficult. Like, some of her friends wanted to, but we couldn't take them for a 10 or 11 or a 12-mile hike and over 3 mountains. They just couldn't do it.
It was hard to find kids that were my age that could accomplish what I could.
Yeah, that's a very good way of saying it. We were very So we were thrilled when Alex and Sage offered to hike, and they hiked 3 hikes with us over the course of this, including the final one with Steve.
I was really surprised when we did the Blue Hill hike. We went to Blue Hill Observatory in South Boston, and Trish and Alex and Sage came with us, and Dan gave a presentation, and so did Trish. And I was surprised to hear that they came into hiking by accident, because they've done all of it. I was very surprised.
And you think that they would have been doing it like forever, right? Yeah. But I guess Trish had moved up. Alex was a very high energy kid. She was 4. She was 4 when she did her first 4,000 footer, and not carried. She did it on her own. And they stopped on the Kankamingus Highway, and there's an information booth on the Kankamingus Highway that talks about peak bagging. And Trish read this and thought, oh, that might be a good way for Alex to expend some energy. So they just, with no gear and with no concept of what they were doing in the middle of winter, they hiked up Mount Tecumseh, and they failed the first couple of times. And that's how it all started for them. And this was just a few years ago, so 5 years ago. So it's there is no like I said, there's no ceiling to what kids can do, what she can do, to any kids can do. And I think it doesn't have to be hiking. But if you find what they love, then they can. There's no stopping them. Literally, there's no stopping. The only person who can stop them is you. So yeah, so we did that with Blue Hill. That was a lot of fun. We're going to be there again on Saturday. Actually, we're going to be at the open house. We're going to be giving a presentation at Blue Hill Observatory, and I'm actually a hiking guide at Blue Hill down in South Boston, and take middle school kids up there. So it's a cool place. Have any of you been to Blue Hill Observatory?
What is that?
Isn't it beautiful? It's gorgeous. It's the oldest observatory in North America. It was founded in 1893. and it's been keeping weather records since 1893, 30 years longer than Mount Washington. And it's just south of Boston. It's a reservation, 125 miles of hiking trails. It's pretty cool.
It's high,
What's that?
high.
625 feet.
Yeah.
We'll start there.
Yeah.
It's
625
a
feet.
meander.
But from the tower, you can see the skyline of Boston. It's really beautiful. And you can see all the way down to Providence, Rhode Island.
Where's the next highest peak?
Down there.
By the way, is away.
Watch yourself.
Well, Mount Greylock, probably. So yeah, there we are. We have I brought a little piece of paper with me. I'd love if anyone who's interested in signing. We have an email list. We have a Facebook page. We have a website. We have all sorts of good stuff that we're doing all the time. We love to take people hiking with us. So if you're a member of our email list and you see that we're going up and you want to join us, please do. I'll hike. You'll have to hike slowly for me. She'll probably lead. But please come with us. We have copies of the book that are available, and we're happy to sign them. And we have a little photo thing up there. So, anything else?
What's the favorite food on the trail?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Nice. Yes.
Carbs, sugar, and protein.
Carbs, sugar, and protein.
Raspberry tea.
Well, yes.
That too? That's not food, that's for.
Raspberry tea, too.
We ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly. A lot of peanut butter and jelly.
And
And,
travels well.
She became really good at making peanut butter and jelly. And I only say that because I make her make the peanut butter and jelly. So I have to actually compliment her really to make good peanut butter and jelly.
Because it's very hard to make.
Yeah.